If there's one thing every gardener wishes for, it's rich, dark, crumbly soil that practically grows plants on its own. But for many of us, especially those gardening on budgets, balconies, borrowed land, or tired, depleted ground, the idea of buying compost, fertilizers, or fancy soil conditioners just isn't realistic. The good news? Nature already gave us one of the most powerful, zero-cost soil builders on the planet, and it's blowing around your yard right now. Dry leaves, those crunchy, papery leftovers of the season that most people rake, bag, and throw away, are actually a hidden goldmine of organic matter, nutrients, and microbial life waiting to be awakened. And the best part? You don't need tools, you don't need money, you don't need space. All you need is time, moisture, and a gardener's touch. Today on Soil Stories, let me show you how to revive dead soil and transform it, using nothing more than dry leaves and the natural processes already happening under your feet. Dry leaves hold a kind of quiet magic. At first glance, they're just light brown, lifeless scraps. But if you look a little closer, you'll discover a perfect blend of carbon, trace minerals, and cellulose fibers that soil organisms absolutely love. When leaves fall from a tree, they're loaded with everything the tree pulled up from deep underground: calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, zinc, and dozens of micronutrients that plants desperately need. In other words, the leaves that fall each season are a nutrient summary of the soil the tree has been mining. When we return those leaves to the ground, we're giving back what was borrowed. But here's where the real magic begins: microbes. The moment those dry leaves get wet, an entire army of fungi, bacteria, and tiny critters moves in. They soften the leaves, break down the fibers, and slowly transform them into humus, the richest, most life-giving substance in the soil world. What starts as dry, dusty yard waste actually becomes a living, breathing habitat for soil life. And, unlike composting that needs bins or turning, this process can happen without tools, without work, and without spending a single penny. Most gardeners think leaf transformation requires shredders or compost piles, but not here. The method I'm about to share is something you can start today, even if you don't own a rake. All you're doing is placing leaves where soil organisms can access them, and then just letting natural moisture and microbial activity do the rest. Find a space, your garden beds, pots, or even containers, and scatter the leaves directly over the soil. Don't worry about them blowing away. Moisture will take care of that in time. What seems messy at first becomes a soft, beautiful mulch layer once the leaves begin to settle. That's it. Truly. Where there is moisture, shade, and organic matter, soil life will come. If your soil is dry, dusty, or compacted, you're not alone. Many gardeners start with lifeless beds where water runs off instead of sinking in, where roots struggle to breathe, and where plants simply refuse to thrive. Dry leaves fix all of that, but slowly, naturally, and in layers. When you lay leaves on top of poor soil, they actually do three things at once. First, they soften harsh sunlight so, moisture stays trapped beneath the leaf layer. Then they invite fungi, the master decomposers, to build networks around the leaf edges. And finally, they create these small, damp pockets where microbes wake up and start multiplying. These processes, they loosen compacted clay, enrich sandy soil, and shield delicate topsoil from erosion. In a few weeks, you'll start to notice the soil under your leaf layer turning darker. In a couple of months, it becomes easier to dig, richer in smell, and alive with insects and mycelium. And honestly, if you keep adding leaves over time, the soil becomes naturally fertile, without ever adding fertilizers. Dry leaves alone won't break down, but moisture transforms them from paper-dry fragments into soft, pliable organic matter that fungi and bacteria can penetrate. You don't need a hose or sprayer, you don't need a bucket, you don't need a watering can, You only need rain. Every drop of rainwater is loaded with free nitrogen that helps balance the carbon in leaves. As the rain soaks through the leaf layer, it activates the entire decomposition cycle. If you live in a dry climate, no problem. Even dew can begin the process. Morning moisture settles into the leaves, and over time, the natural rhythm of wet-dry cycles begins to break them down. Whenever possible, tuck leaves around plants or into garden corners where they won't blow away. Once they get weighed down by moisture and microbial activity, they anchor themselves naturally. There is something, deeply satisfying about watching a pile of leaves slowly turn into black, crumbly soil. The process isn't fast, but it is, honestly, incredibly dependable. At first the leaves simply soften, then you'll start seeing these fuzzy white fungal threads weaving through the leaf veins. This is a sign that your soil is waking up. Fungi are the first responders. They break down the toughest leaf fibers. As the fungi soften the leaves, other organisms move in: springtails, beetles, earthworms, and pillbugs. Before long, you'll be able to lift the leaf layer and find the soil beneath looking moist, dark, and alive. The breakdown continues all season long, and after a few months the leaves melt into the earth completely. If you're a container gardener or you grow on a balcony, dry leaves are even more valuable. Container soil dries out quickly, compacts easily, and loses nutrients faster than ground soil. A thin layer of leaves on top of containers keeps moisture in and feeds the soil every time you water. This method is still zero cost and tool-free. If you want leaves to break down a little quicker, here's a simple trick. Crush them with your hands by squeezing small bundles. You're not shredding, just bruising them slightly. This gives microbes more surface area to work with. Then tuck the crushed leaves directly against the soil. That's it. Your hands are the only tool you need. Gardeners often ask whether certain leaves are better than others. The truth is, any leaf becomes organic matter eventually. Thick, leathery leaves like mango or avocado take longer, while soft leaves like jacaranda, guava, and fruit trees break down quickly. But all contribute nutrients and carbon. The beauty of this method is patience. You're working with nature, not forcing it. There's no turning, no mixing, no hauling, just simple, steady transformation driven by rain, microbes, and time. If you keep adding leaves season after season, your soil becomes a long-term sponge for moisture, nutrients, and life. You're not just improving your soil, you're rebuilding an ecosystem. When the process is working, you'll notice some signs. The soil darkens, moisture lingers longer, fungi start to appear, the soil becomes softer, and crumbly insects return, and plants become greener and stronger. This is, honestly, the language of healthy soil. And all of it comes from leaves that most people just throw away. If you have dry leaves around you, you have everything you need to start reviving your soil, without spending a single shilling or even lifting a single tool. This method works for any gardener, anywhere, whether you're growing in buckets, in a backyard, or, on hard, exhausted land. Nature already has the blueprint. All you're really doing is setting the stage. So, go ahead and gather a handful of leaves, spread them where your soil needs help, and let the transformation begin. And if you found this Soil Stories guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, so more gardeners can join us on this journey of reviving soil the natural way.